can see. Okay. All right. Need to, this. Okay. Let's continue there. Right. Okay. Good. So let's try that again. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all well on this either sunny evening or blustery evening, wherever you are. Where I was just saying to Hannah, where I am in, well, I'd say not so sunny Portsmouth. It's a lot of wind going on at the moment, so I hope it's good for you. Right, guys, just to quickly, obviously I've got the chat box open on my screen, so if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. Like I say, if you want to unmute yourself to ask a question, you are more than welcome to do that. I'll gladly stop and answer any questions you've got, or if you want to keep them to the end, I'm quite happy to answer questions at the end as well. So anything you've got, but I do sort of use the chat box, and sometimes I'm going to ask you some questions where I really would sort of like a little bit of feedback from you, and we'll use the chat box for that. So if you could just do me a quick favor, if you are able to, if you could just type sort of like a hello or something quickly into the chat box for me, so I know we've got some kind of so we know it's working okay. It doesn't matter if not, really doesn't matter. Here we go. Yay, there we are. We've got look at that. Evening. Oh, look at all those hellos. Brilliant. Love it. Fantastic. Yay. Brilliant. That's really excellent. So obviously you can see on the screen that our session tonight is about resilience. As you know, my name is Jay. Actually, my given name is Jason, but the only people that call me Jason are my wife and my mother when I'm in trouble. And as I currently am not in trouble, Jay is, I would love you all to call me Jay. So that's it. So let's talk about this resilience. You know, it's an interesting thing, resilience. You know, in the last couple of years, it's really come to the forefront of, you know, a word that we're using. I think it was a word that was talked about, but it wasn't really brought up in circles, if you like. And then suddenly it came out, and everyone was sort of talking about it, and we've got to show our resilience and that, but nobody really sort of sat down and said, well, what is resilience? No one sat down with students and said, what is resilience? What does it mean to you? No one sat down with any adults. You know, I always say students are young adults, and I say the reason actually I call you a young adult is because you're younger than me. You know, so actually that's why I would say you're a young adult. But so let me ask you this question. If you could type the answers in, this would be really great. What does the word resilience mean to you? As an individual, sat there now, if someone said to you, what does resilience mean to you? What one word would you come up with? I'm going to type what my one word is in as well. So just type in. Okay, brave. Oh, I love that. Brave, hardness. Yeah, excellent. Adaptability, perseverance, rebound. Yeah, good. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Mine, I'll just bring, I love that. Stickability. What a great word that is. Adapting. Yeah. All of these, the interesting thing is you look at all these words and people would say, well, they all mean the same thing. But yeah, in a way they do. I'm just going to, we got a second one for adapting there. I'm just going to put mine in. Mine is drive. Resilience is what is my ability to drive myself forward and then keep going, and then pick myself up and drive myself forward again, and then pick myself up and then sort of go again. So resilience as a word. Oh, here we go. To get through things even when it's hard, and to get out better than the person that brought you down. Oh, now there's a great answer. Fantastic. Resilience, actually, in its sort of bare form, if you like, is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, to be able to get back up when you get knocked down. And actually what we do is we get back up. The problem is, a lot of the time is we go and do it again, but we do it in the same way. And because we do it in the same way, we get knocked down, but then we get back up again and we're going to try it again. But guess what? We try and do it in the same way. Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and again, and actually expecting different results. So we've got to look at how we can do things slightly differently. Every time we get knocked down, have a look at what we've done, have a look at how we've done it, and actually what slight change can we make to the way we do it the next time. I personally believe, and it's just a personal opinion, there's no science behind this, but I personally believe that change is one of the most powerful words in the English language, because that is the word that makes us do things a bit differently. And to me, resilience is all about, if we get knocked down, one, how we get back up again. And number two, how do we do that same thing slightly differently so that if we do get knocked down, we learn. And then we can get back up again and we try it again. But we try it again slightly differently. And each time we try it again, we learn how we do things. So it doesn't matter how many times we get knocked down. And actually, when we get knocked down a lot, we feel angry. We feel stressed. We feel like, and I'm sure you've seen your students, I'm sure you've seen them sort of, sometimes they're doing work at home and they're not getting the results they want. And so you can just see it build up and build up and build up till they're like, yeah. And you just get that feeling of, actually, I need to be able to try and do something to help them out. But what is it that I can actually do? And what we're going to look at tonight is just some things that you can do, that you can help them, that if you see that situation is happening, if you can see that their resilience is being pushed, if you can see that they're maybe not getting the results they wanted and they don't know what they can do differently, actually, a couple of these things will help. So that's the sort of thing we're going to look at tonight. The first thing I want to look at is actually stress. Now, I'm sure you've seen these young adults that you've got at home getting stressed out over the last year. They spent a lot of time doing exactly what we're doing now, sat in front of a computer screen. And when they're sat in front of that computer screen, they might be having an online lesson, which they then have to get some work done. And the teacher says, right, okay, there's your lesson. Now you've got to do this work. And they spent so long sat in front of that screen that actually you see them start to wilt. You see them think, oh, I just can't be bothered with this. I just can't do it. It's just too much. My 10-year-old son, now he really struggled with the fact that he had to sit in front of a computer screen. Even though he loves it, the tech thing is really his thing. He loves it, but he just switched off. And I could see him getting stressed. Now, if you see your students getting a bit stressed about things, there is something you can do, because what happens is when we get stressed is we have the fight, flight, and freeze happening. This is about the sort of fight or flight. The fight, for those people who don't know, the fight is like the foot soldiers at the front of your brain. Come on, I'm having some of this. I'm succeeding. I'm doing this. Nothing's going to stop me. Doesn't matter how I do things. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to do that. So that's our fight. We stand up, we fight any situation, and we just keep pushing forward. Our flight is when we get that feeling of that stress feeling inside of us. Our shoulders get a bit tight. The breathing maybe becomes a bit more rapid. That feeling of, I just can't do it. That kind of thing. When that happens, the flight kicks in and freezes everything. And when it freezes everything, basically the parts of the brain that we really need to help us get out of this situation are shut down. So see the cortex, the thinking part of the brain, because the brain feels like it's under attack, the flight shuts it down. So that thinking part of the brain gets shut down, which is why we can't answer a question, which is why we can't remember any answers that come into things. But we get that feeling, but we can't deal with that because our emotional side gets shut down as well. Because our emotional side gets shut down, then we can't deal with this emotion that's building up and building up and building up, which is really where the stress comes. So everything freezes. So there's something you can do at home, and we call this balloon breathing. And I thought we'd try this tonight just to give you, and we'll do it a couple of times, just to give you an experience of it, that if you see this happening, you will be able to do this with them. So what I need you to do is to, whatever chair you're in, is just to sit with the base of your spine in the back of your chair, and then put your hands onto your laps. So you're just sat on your lap there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count to 5. And as I start counting to 5, I want you to breathe in through your nose. And I want you to take the whole 5 counts to fill your lungs up. So if you do, because if you do it in 2, then you've got to hold it, and you don't want to be holding it for a long time. So take all 5 counts to hold, to breathe in through your nose. Then you're going to hold your breath for 3 seconds. I'll count 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to count to 7. And as I count to 7, I need you to release your air very slowly, but through your mouth. So in through your nose for 5, hold for 3, out through your mouth for 7. So let's try this first. So you ready? So now sit back, hands on your laps, sitting up nicely. Okay, breathe in through your nose and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 3. 1, 2, 3. And now breathe out for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. Let's do that again. So breathe in through your nose for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 3. 1, 2, 3. And breathe out through your mouth for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's try that one more time. Breathe in through your nose for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 3, 2, 3, and release for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Excellent. Now, just a quick chat in the chat box for me. How did you find that? Did you find that when you were breathing out through for the 7, when you get to the 7, you feel like 6 and 7, your body is just starting to relax? You just feel a little bit sort of thing. Give me a thumbs up or a yes or no or something in the chat box just so I can, here we go. Yes, good. Oh, I wanted to go to sleep. Yeah, yes, good, brilliant. Now, what happens when you can feel yourself relaxing? The flight in your fight or flight, that stress moment, has actually stopped, which enables your fight to come through and enables you to be able to say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed. Right. How can I solve this problem? How can I do what it is I need to do and look at it a little bit differently? Yeah, actually, you're very, yep, it is. It is actually, yeah, I'm just really sorry. I've got to put my glass on to read. Yep, absolutely. You know, it is something very similar in yoga, but you'll be amazed actually how people find that they just can't get out of something. They don't know how to. And just by doing some balloon breathing really, really can help you out. Because actually we talk about meditation with students, but lots of students, I've just seen meditation on there. Yeah. Lots of students feel that, you know, meditation is not for them, but this is just a way in which you can do that and do it very quickly and release that flight and freeze without actually spending a lot of time doing it. So it's a really good exercise to do. It takes a little bit of time to get used to, but you will find that the more you do it with them, actually what's going to happen is they will end up doing it themselves. And when they're in an exam, if they find they get that feeling going on, I can't remember anything, I can't answer the question, I don't know, all they've got to do is a little bit of balloon breathing just to relax them, just to relax that flight or freeze, sorry. And it will enable them to be able to deal with whatever it is that's going on in that exam. So that's our bit of balloon breathing we do, you know, and it really sort of is incredibly useful. You know, over the last year, what have we learned? We've learned that life isn't smooth sailing. We learned that we can't control everything, and we learned it's failure and we also know that failure can be a part of success. Thomas Edison, when he invented the light bulb, took 10,000 experiments to get it right. After 5,000, some other scientists went up to him and said, you know, Thomas, you failed to invent this so-called electric light bulb 5,000 times. It's obviously never going to work. Why don't you stop wasting your time and invent something we can use? Thomas Edison said, I haven't failed 5,000 times. I've successfully identified 5,000 ways for the light bulb not to work. Every time he did another experiment, he did it slightly differently. Because he was trying to, he'd say, right, it didn't work that way. Okay, I'm going to try it another way. And in 9,999 successes of how it didn't work and 1 success of how it did work. So by using that word change, But yes, he was resilient. And that's what we're trying to say to the students. Actually, what you can do is this: if it doesn't work the first time, how can we do it slightly differently? There's no point in doing something again that in the same way, because it's probably not going to work. So we've got to look at it. We've got to say, right, it didn't work that way. It's like let's say they do a test at school and it's out of 50 marks and they only get 10. And they would say, right, I failed at that. But if we looked at it slightly differently, if we looked at it and said, well, actually, you didn't fail. You successfully identified that you need to maybe look at this subject in a different way. Maybe you need to do a bit more revision. Maybe you need to speak to the teacher about what didn't work. Maybe we can change the way we do things. Actually, that mark of 10 becomes a success, because we successfully identified that we're going to do things a little bit differently. There are certain things we can control and there are certain things we can't control. That's why resilience is essential, because we know that it isn't smooth sailing. We know that we can't control everything, but if we can change the way we think, and for me personally, a lot of what I talk about tonight is a personal, the way I see things. Excuse me. And the way I see it is that if we can just change the way that they think, even in the slightest way, we can bring their resilience through. And that really is sort of what I'm going to be looking at today. A typical student, we have this thing called an emotional backpack. You might have known it as a bag of worries, a bag of wobbles, which is what a video that my daughter's school sent home during lockdown. She's 5. And they talked about this bag of wobbles, but we call it an emotional backpack. As adults, we've all got one of these as well. But in our backpack, there's slightly different things. And this backpack, everybody carries it around with them. Everybody has it every day. And it's full of the stuff that we worry about, that we stress about, that we get frustrated about, that we get angry about, that we can't do anything about, but we keep trying to do something about it. And it weighs us down, and it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. Now, for us, it might be something that I forgot to put the bins out. I forgot to put the bins out. I'm not really at home. The bins out. My recycling bin's not going to be picked up for another 2 weeks. It's already full up. Where am I going to put all this recycling? I'm going to have to stick it in the bin or somewhere else. And now I'm going to do that. And then something as simple as that can fill our emotional backpack. A student's emotional backpack is full of things like worried that they're not going to get their work completed, worried what other people are thinking about them, worried what other people are saying, worried about certain situations, stressed about having to go into a class because they didn't really understand it last week. And now the teacher's going to carry on from where I left off last week, and I'm still not going to understand it. So we get frustrated with that, and we get stressed for that. And all of the time that we carry this around, it weighs us down. So what I say to students, and I think as adults, I think this is a really useful exercise for us as adults as well, is that we actually write down what we think we're carrying around with us. So I want you just to have a little think for a minute. If you've got a bit of pen and paper handy, excellent. If you haven't, just in your head, just think to yourself, actually, what am I carrying around at the moment? What is in my backpack? If anybody wants to share anything in the chat box, you are more than welcome to. I'm going to stick in something that's in my backpack at the moment. Oh, paperwork. Okay. Stress of teaching students all day work today. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Paperwork. Yeah. So I'm going to put 2 in for me. So social distancing and traveling to schools, because we in our job generally, as a rule, I would be away 3 or 4 nights a week, traveling from one school to the next each day, doing what we do. Actually, it's, at the moment, we're doing it very, very little, because we're doing everything as we're doing this today. Social distancing, my mother had to shield for a long time. So we've all been very, very careful about social distancing because we've seen her just a little bit. Life, family, yes. Okay. All right. So here's my next thought then. What do you think students are carrying around in their backpack? Do you think there's anything different to what you feel you're carrying around? Exam stress, 100%. Yeah, yeah, they absolutely carry around more than adults. Yeah, homework. Yep. Oh, okay, that's quite a big one. So, how do I, oh, I've missed. Oh, I've lost. Oh, okay. I need to just go back because here we go. Yep. Bring me down. So instead of ignoring the weight, my backpack emptied it out now. Yep, that's uh, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just reading what's said because actually something that's just been put in the chat. Oh, it's okay for it being long. That's not a problem. Friendship after school, friendship, schoolwork, after school ideas. Yeah, social pressures, friends. Yeah, and actually something that somebody's just put in the chat is that what we want to do with students, and I think this is something you can really help them out with, is to show them that actually there are things they can deal with and there are things they can't deal with. And with the things they can't deal with, a lot of the time, that's what's weighing them down the most. And that's what they worry about the most. You know, we have this thing called the circle of control. I think this is a great exercise for you to do with them. And the reason I think it's so good is because this actually identifies all the things they can deal with and all the things they can't. So as an exercise to do with them, what you can do is, first of all, get them to write, and don't ask to see it. Okay. You don't want to see it. You don't want to know. Get them to write down everything they feel that they're carrying around with them at the moment. So don't say, I don't want to know it. I just want you to write it down. Then what you do is you then get them to draw 2 circles. I'm just going to bring them up now so you can see them. We call these the circle of control. Now, the inner circle is everything that they can control. Their mindset, their actions, ideas, efforts, behavior, things like that. The outer circle is actually things that they can't control, things they can do nothing about. Because it's always a really good thing for them to identify that. Because if they can identify that, what happens is they think, well, actually, I can't do anything about it. So I don't really need to worry about it because it's out of my control. I can't control it. And if they can identify that, and if they can use that, what happens is their backpack gets a bit lighter. Now, I always say to students, you know what, guys, you in a lesson, you can't do anything about this emotional backpack. You can't control it. You can't deal with anything. So I'll tell you what, leave it outside the classroom door. Still going to be there when you finish the class. When you walk out, it's still going to jump back onto your back. But you know what? Because you didn't take it in with you, because you're not worried about these things that you can do nothing about, you've probably focused a bit more in that lesson. And because you focused a bit more in that lesson, what's happened is you've learned a bit more, or you might have asked a question so you can understand a bit more, which means you're a little bit less worried about that subject, which means some of that worry is now taken out of your backpack. You're not frustrated as much because you've done what you needed to do. So a little bit more has been taken out of that backpack. So once you put that backpack back on, it's a little bit lighter. And if we can do this on a regular basis, the backpack becomes lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, because they really, really need to identify those things they can control and those things they can't control. We can't control other people's actions, from what was said, and a great answer that was said in the chat just a minute ago. We can't control how long we're going to be in this pandemic for. We can't control the pandemic. You know, what we can control is the way we act with the pandemic. We can't control social distancing. You know, we're told to social distance, so we do that. But actually, we can't control how long we're doing it for. Other people's views and opinions, we can't control that. And back in the beginning of the, you know, I've kept this one in because it makes me laugh every time, if I'm honest with you. We couldn't control the stock in the shops. We couldn't control that people wanted to buy 100 toilet rolls. So we couldn't do anything about that. But what they can control is the way they think, which controls how they act, which controls what they get. So put it into another way. Their state of mind controls the behaviors they do, controls the results they get. If you went into lessons, for instance, and their homework and stuff, if they're listening, which means, you know, they're generally learning, or if they don't understand, they ask a question, so they've learned it because they're listening. So they learn it, which means they've got something to revise. They've got something to revise, they can get the great results they want. If they don't listen, then they're not really learning. If they're not really learning, they're not going to be able to do the homework and the work they have to do because they didn't really listen, so they don't understand what's going on, which means they're not really going to get any revision done, which means they're not going to get the results they want. So it's all about how we make that slight change to take them from this fixed negative mindset into a more growth mindset. So what I'd like to do is just to give you a little example of this. And obviously, I don't, you know, if you want to put some stuff in the chat box, great. But I'd like you to have a little think for maybe 2 minutes and just jot down, if you've got a bit of paper, draw 2 circles. If you haven't, just in your head, think about it, and just write down in your inner circle all the things that you believe you're carrying around with you that you can control. And in the outer circle, all the things that you can't control. And then what you do is then you work over the next week about how you control this yourself, how you let go of those things that you can't control, how you bring forward those things you can control, and you will see how your mindset changes. And if you can feel that, then actually what's going to happen is your behavior is going to change slightly, which also means that when you talk to the students about this, when you talk to those young adults at home about this, actually you've got a little experience of it. So it's not a case of, well, I read somewhere or I heard somebody say. You can say, actually, I did this. And this is what really, you know, this is how it worked for me. So if this can work for me doing this now, imagine what it could do for you. So just spend a couple of minutes. All right. I'll anything you want to put in the chat box, any questions you've got, please do. Feel free. I won't talk for a couple of minutes because I want to give you just time to think without listening to me sort of rabbit onto you. So also it's a good time to grab some water. If you need a drink, now's a good time to grab that. Yeah, so just have a think. What do you believe that you're carrying around with you at the moment that you can control and the things you can't control? So it just means that you can focus on those things you can control and you can let go of those things you can't control. I'll give you a couple of minutes. So I was just going back through some of the things that you guys put in the chat box. Some really good stuff here. So I'll give you about another minute. Awesome. Brilliant. Can you just give me a quick thumbs up or a yes, I finished? I'd hate to move on if somebody's still writing stuff down. If you're done, if you're finished, just give me a all done or something like that, just to let me know that you've, oh, someone's raised a hand. Okay. Oh, does that mean you have a question? Oh, did you raise your hand to say you finished? It might be that. Brilliant. Okay, cool. Excellent. Thank you, Phyllis. Yes. Awesome. Whoever raised their hand, if you've raised your hand to say you're finished, brilliant. If you've got a question, please feel free to ask it. You know, like I say, all done. Brilliant. Like I say, Guy, it is something that you have, it's really good for you to have a go at. And so that when you've, when you talk about when you talk about this, you could say, I've had a go at this, and this is how it's worked for me. These are the changes I have made. So why don't we give this a go and see what's happened? Because the big thing we're trying to do is we're trying to get students out of what we call a fixed mindset. All right. Every time we get knocked down, we can get back up again, but we do it slightly differently. Okay. Think of that song. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. I get knocked down. You know, I think it was by Chumbawamba, I think it was. You know, and actually, when you think about it, resilience in its simplest form is getting knocked back down again, but getting up again and doing it with more passion, more drive, tenacity. But one of the big problems we've got is we have got this growth, this fixed mindset versus more growth mindset. I'm just going to ask you this. I'm going to say these things. And if you think you've said them to yourself, well, I don't need a hands up or anything. Just put in your head, yep, said that, or no, I haven't said that. So have you ever said to yourself, oh, I can't do that? Have you ever said to yourself, I don't understand it? How about, I'm not good enough? How about, I'm tired all of the time? I've got too much to do and there isn't enough time to do it all. Now, out of everything I've got on there, and these are just some of the things that we say to ourselves. On that list there, in the chat box for me, I don't want to know what it is. All I'd like to know is of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things I've got there, how many of those have you said to yourself? 6, 4, yeah, 6. Yeah, 4, 6, 6, yeah, 5, 6, yeah, 4, brilliant. Yeah, well, not brilliant, because obviously that puts us in that fixed mindset. But the crazy thing is, I've got a 5 there. The crazy thing is no matter whether you start from the bottom and work your way up, or whether you start from the top and work your way down, each one, as soon as we've said one of those, that one on the top, the bottom, we tend to then say the other things. Let me show you what I mean. Look, I can't do it because I don't understand it, which obviously means I'm not good enough, you know, to get it done. Because I can't do it, I'm spending a lot of extra time doing something, as well as doing everything else I'm doing in the day, which means I'm going to bed late, which means I'm tired all the time. And because I'm tired, it's just stressing me out because there's too much to do. And I just don't have enough time. I don't even have any time to myself. And that's a conversation we either have with somebody else, or a lot of the time we have that conversation with ourselves. Or you could do it the other way. I haven't got enough time to get everything done because I've got too much to do, which means I'm going to be up late getting it all done, which means I'm going to be tired tomorrow. I'm obviously, why am I so tired? Why am I not getting everything done? I'm obviously not good enough to get everything done. I just don't understand it. I can't do it. So whether we use this as with adults or students, each one of those is connected to the other. So we need to make a change. Now, I could sit here and say to you, right, so what we're going to do is we're not going to say, I can't do that. What we're going to do is we're going to say to ourselves, I can do that. But there's no point. Because if you don't believe it, there's no point in saying it. You see, the way the brain works, we have different parts of the brain. We have different sides of the brain, and we have a conscious and a subconscious mind. When our conscious mind is in charge of us, it's our captain. It makes the decisions. It tells us what to do. Our subconscious mind makes things happen. So if anyone's ever said to you, I can only deal with one thing at a time, it's actually tosh. We can deal with 7 things at any one given time. So at the moment, you're sat here, you're looking at the screen, you're listening to my voice, you're looking at the slides that are coming up on the screen. My guess is you're not sat there thinking about the feeling in your left hand. Now you're thinking about the feeling in your left hand because I gave you something else to think about. But not only are you thinking about the feeling in your left hand, but you're also thinking about the slides, thinking about my voice, thinking about the screen and everything else, but not about the feeling in your right foot. We could do this all night. I could just give you different things. But every time that I give you something else to think about, something else to deal with, one of your 7 things has to disappear. So the conscious mind, we can deal with 7 things, but it is in charge of us. It makes things happen. Our subconscious mind, on the other hand, is 30,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. I'm going to say that again because it's a massive number. 30,000 times more powerful. But do you know what? It cannot make a decision. It just makes things happen. It's a little bit like our house, really. My wife is 30,000 times more powerful than me, but she can't make a decision to save her life. But actually, once the decision's made, my wife makes things happen. So that's how it works. So if your conscious mind says, I can do that, and your subconscious mind says, if you don't believe what you're saying, your subconscious mind says, no, you can't. You're not believing it. So it doesn't happen. So we have to make a change. So I wonder if you just maybe have a little thing, maybe just type a word. Is there something that you think maybe we could change? What slight change could we make from I can't do that? Do you think maybe any ideas? Stick it in the chat box if you've got an idea. Okay, I can learn. I can do that. Yeah. I could do that. Yeah, I need support to do that. Okay. Yeah, well, the closest one I would, there you go. I hope you don't mind me calling your name out, Jess, but that's a great shout. So focus on what I can actually do. I can do that if I can't do that yet. There's another one. Good. Yeah. So all we're going to do is we're just going to add one word. I can't do that yet, but I'm going to work out how I can. Let's see. We ask students at school to add the word yet. Yeah. Excellent. Brilliant. And that's what we're looking at doing. Instead of just saying, I can't do that, we're just going to add one word. I can't do it yet, but I'm going to work out how I can't. And when your young adults at home say, I can't do it, you turn around to them and say, you can't do it yet, but let's work out how we can do it. And if they then say, but I can't do it because I don't understand it, your answer is well, where are we going to get the information from so you can do that? Who do we need to talk to? Where do we need to look online? Can we look online? Do we need to look in a book? Do we need to speak to a teacher? Where can we get this information? So actually you can do, you can understand it. The other one, and I think that for me, this is quite a personal one, this next one. I'm not good enough. Well, do you know, one of the hardest things a student can do, actually, to be fair, any of us, is to pay ourselves a compliment. So if they say, I'm not good enough, well, okay, you know, there's a great quote that says, we're all good at everything we do. It's just that some people are better than others at things. It doesn't make us bad at things. It just means they're better than us. We've got things that we're brilliant at, that we're better than other people. I'm not a bad football player, even at the ripe old age of 51. I know you're all sat there at the moment looking at the screen thinking, there's no way you're 51. Yeah, I am. But actually, Harry Kane is a better football player than me. It doesn't make me bad. It just means Harry Kane is better than me. You ask people, can you draw? Let me ask you this question. Can you draw? If you think you can draw, type yes in the chat box. If you think you cannot draw, type no. Yes or no. Can you draw? Okay, so we've got 3 yeses, 3 no's, and 1 sometimes. All right, okay. Well, I would say to you, draw a stick person. Okay, let me ask you this question. Can you draw a stick person? Here we go. Yes, 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 yes. All right, I would say you can all draw. Okay, if you were asked, if you went into some kind of drawing competition and you drew a stick person and the person next to you draw this fantastic artistry picture, it doesn't mean you can't draw. It just means they're better than you. It doesn't make you bad. And we'll go back to that quote. So always try and look for, if someone says, I don't feel I'm good enough for something. All right, okay, well, what are we good at? What is good about us? We can all do it. We just need to sort of do it slightly differently. If we're tired all the time, well, actually, you know what? We're probably going to need to look at what time we're going to bed. You think 9 to 11 hours sleep is what a student needs. Realistically, with everything going on, with our body clocks being all over the place, 8 is a good number to get. So if they're not getting 8 hours sleep a night, just sit down and say, right, you're going to need to get 8 hours sleep. What changes can we make so you can get 8 hours sleep? Now, I just don't have enough time and there's too much to do and I don't have enough time. These to me are linked, okay? Organize and prioritize. I would say, sit them down. If they're stressing out about how much homework they've got, how much work they've got to do, sit them down and just say to them, right, okay, rather than let's get stressed about how much you've got to do, what we're going to do is actually, we're going to organize it as to when this work needs to be handed in by. Because lots of the time they might have a subject they enjoy that the work doesn't need to be handed in for 10 days. A subject they don't enjoy, work needs to be handed in 2 days. What's the work they're going to do first? They're going to do the work that they enjoy, even though it doesn't have to be handed in for 2 days. And then they're going to get stressed because the night before, got to hand this in tomorrow. I'm really stressed. It's not happening. I'm not learning it. Whereas if you can organize and prioritize it. So actually, when a piece of homework comes home, when does that need to be handed in by? Okay, let's put it in order. One of the things we're going to do with my son, he goes to secondary school in September. And one of the things we're going to have to do with him is whenever he gets a piece of homework, we're going to just have a piece of paper and we're going to have, when does this work need to be handed in by? So we always make sure that he's handing his work in on time and he's not just focusing on the stuff he enjoys and he's ignoring the stuff he doesn't enjoy. So that's another thing you can do with them. When they say, have you got any homework? Yeah, okay. What is it you've got to do and when's it got to be handed in by? Let's get it. You can sort of create a little chart that you can stick on the fridge. Okay, so that way they can see, right, I've got this to do tonight and I've got that to do. Right, I've finished that. Brilliant. Now I can have some free time. If they can organize and prioritize it better, what's going to happen is they are going to get more free time to themselves, which will enable them to spend their time more effectively. So by just adding that one word, we can completely change the way that there's that word again. That's why it's such a powerful word. We can completely change the way they think. But what this will do also, it will lighten their emotional backpack as well. because they're not so stressed. They're not so worried. They're not so frustrated. They're dealing with the things they can control. They're ignoring the things they can't control. Emerson said, you become what you think about most of the time. And that's such a true fact. So the last thing I wanted to have a chat with you tonight about is what we call the happy chemicals in the brain, because this is another way that can really help to build their resilience. So I'll just bring them up so you can read so we can see them all. Oh. So they are, let's get them up. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Now, these are things that you can really help build at home, and they can do it with their friends as well. So dopamine, the reward chemical. So what I want to do, the dopamine is triggered by random acts of kindness, helping other people out. One of the things you can do at home is to sit down and say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to start doing one thing every day for somebody else. Now, you may be doing loads of things for other people anyway, so this could be easy for you because actually just pick one of them. And what you say is, I'm going to make sure that I do this. So what they then do is they then say, okay, I'm going to do this for somebody else. And if you can do it on a Sunday, and you can say for the week, every day that we have all written down, and we are making an agreement that we are going to do these things for other people. Because what will happen is the reward chemical comes into play. So every time you do it, every time we all know that when we do something for other people, we feel good. I feel great when I hold the door open for somebody else. I recently was in Tesco's. Of course, other supermarkets are available, and I was getting some shopping, and there was a little, I would say, an older lady than me. And she was trying to reach something from the top shelf. She couldn't reach. She was on tiptoes, and her fingers were just brushing it. Wasn't moving. She couldn't get it down. Now, normally, I'd just walk up, pick it up, and hand it to her. But of course, can't do that at the moment. So I got a bit stressed because I thought, well, actually, this is one of the frustrations for me in the pandemic and this illness, is because I can't do that for other people. So what I then did was I thought, well, actually, how can I make this happen? What can I do? And I happened to see there was one of the people that worked there was there with some gloves on. They were unpacking the stuff. So I was able to just say to them, is there any chance you can help this lady out? They were able to do that. And, my dopamine was triggered. Because I thought, and I didn't do that for myself. It wasn't, I want to do this because I want to feel good about myself. But it does happen when we do things for other people. So there's something you can do at home for them. You can just say, okay, on a Sunday, we are going to sit down and we are all going to say every day, we're going to do one thing for somebody else. And we're going to make sure that happens. So that can really that's something that can be really, really useful to use. Oxytocin is the relationship chemical. Hugs, at the moment, obviously we can only hug the people in our households, or, we can't hug other people. We're told not to hug other people outside. So this has been quite a big thing, but compliments is something we can do. And I think this is a two-way street as well. I think you can say to them, give them compliments, but also sit them down and say, what, when it comes to the whole explaining why you're doing this, that one thing for other people, to say, what, we are going to start complimenting each other. Okay. And what we're going to do is every day we're going to give ourselves or each other a compliment. I always talk to students. This actually bit is, if I'm honest, this bit is probably one of the hardest things that the students do, because I say to them, I want you to write down a compliment. Just compliment yourself. And I would say 70% of students cannot give themselves a compliment. You'll get silly things like, I like my socks. Oh, yeah, that's complimenting your socks. That's not actually complimenting you. So you may find that to start with, this is something that is a bit tricky. But the more we do things, the easier it becomes. So if, again, this is something you do on a regular basis, it becomes second nature. So what happens is we all feel a bit better because we're giving compliments, but also we're being able to receive them. Because that's another thing students find very hard is taking a compliment. You know, one of the things we do this exercise in a session, and I say, you know, give yourself a compliment, but then you must compliment the person next to you. And sometimes it's people they would not normally talk to, yet they have to give them a compliment and they have to take it. They're not allowed to say, no, I haven't. Somebody says, I think you've got nice eyes. No, I haven't. They have to say, thank you very much. So whatever compliment that's given, they have to take it on board and they have to accept it and they have to say, thank you. That's very nice of you. So that's something we can do to help them out as well. Serotonin, you know, happy chemical. This is something that we have more of in the summer, less of in the winter, because obviously sunshine makes us feel good. Warm weather makes us feel good. Late evenings make us feel good. And that sort of that time we feel great. In the winter, it's a lot harder. If you talk to people through the different lockdowns we've had in the last year, the first lockdown, lots of people really coped very well with it. I know obviously quite a few people didn't, but lots of people coped very well with it because the sun was out. You were able to go for a walk if you didn't have a garden, or if you had a garden, you were able to go into the garden because the weather was nice. But then when we sort of did the November one, it wasn't, you know, the children were still going to school, so it was a bit different. But this particular one, this last one we've been through, people found it a lot harder because actually it was cold, it was wet, we weren't able to get out and get some fresh air. Sometimes because as a family, we just needed to get out. We were out walking in 2 or 3 degrees. We were wrapped up really warm, but we all knew that we needed to get out the house. So it became a lot harder. So being able to do that, and healthy eating, always make sure if the students that you've got at home, if they're not eating breakfast, it's a must. It's an absolute must. The brain can only work to 60% capacity without having something to eat. So always make sure if you find they're not eating it, just say to them, you know what, you've got to start eating breakfast. Okay. If they're not getting up in time, then all right, let's get up a bit earlier. Okay. You've got, I'll get a bar of chocolate on the way. No, you've got to eat. It's got to be healthy food. Okay. Have some cereal, have some toast, have something so that your brain can function, so that when it comes into lesson, you're not midway through your first or second lesson suddenly thinking, I'm hungry. I'm not going to eat till break time. I've got this lesson to do. I've got another lesson to do before I can get to break, before I can have something to eat, which again, adds stuff into that emotional backpack. So if they can have something to eat, then actually it will see them through and they'll be able to do that. And the last one is the endorphins, is the exercise chemical. Make sure they get exercise. Different exercise for different people. We all like to do different things to exercise. I like to run and walk. I ran a lot a few years ago, hurt my knees, stopped running. And it was only in this last lockdown that I was feeling a bit low. My son was feeling a bit low. And my wife said, why don't you try and run? I said, my knees can't do it. She said, just try. She said, and take Sam with you. So we did a walk and a run. And he said to me, what route did you used to take when you used to run your 5Ks? So we walked and we ran it. And he said, I think I want to run this. So we basically did our own version of the Couch to 5K in a few weeks. And now we're running twice a week. And it's making us feel great. Don't get me wrong. He's 10. He absolutely he moans like a trooper when we start or before we start. But once we're done, when he comes back, say, how do you feel? He says, I feel great. Yeah, I feel really good because I was able to do that. So whatever exercise they like, I always think a great thing is if you find that they're struggling, if you see that they're getting a bit stressed about that work at home, say to them, you know what, put it down. Let's go for a walk. I need some milk. Can you nip up the shop and get me some milk if the shop is not too far away? Come on, let's go out for a bit. Because if we do that, then actually it really can help us out as well. So by doing those few things, by using that, by getting that exercise, by eating, if they're not eating breakfast, by having breakfast, by, making use of the sunshine, all these kind of things that we can do. What we can find is by changing that word from the I can't to I can't do that yet, it's going to start building their resilience. If you find that they're doing things, but doing it in the same way every time, so they're not succeeding, just say to them, actually, great. What change how can we do this slightly differently? Because by doing things slightly differently, we make the changes we need so that we can do the things we want to do and get the results we need to get to take the steps we need to take. I hope that's been of help to you tonight. If you've got any questions, you want to unmute yourself and ask, please do. Stick it in the chat box and ask. Anything at all, then, please ask away. I'll have to stick my specs on to read them. But yeah, so anything you want to put in, please feel free to do so. You're very welcome, Sharon. Very welcome indeed.
That was really great, Jay. Thank you very much for all that information. I think there's a lot of things to take into consideration that will help people at home with their young person, and also any of the students who are currently listening with their parents. Hopefully with information they can use in the next steps, whether that's GCSEs or your A levels, or even in personal life as well. So really, thank you very much. And looking at the comments that you've got, Jay, you've had some. It's everyone saying thank you.
Yeah, really good.
Great. But if anybody does decide that there is a question that perhaps they want to ask Jay that they don't want to do so now, then please do feel free to drop me an email and I can forward it on to Jay, and I'm sure Jay will be happy to answer anything.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah, send an email through, send it through, and yeah, definitely.
That's fantastic. Well, if no one's got any questions, then I'll just say thank you very much. Yeah, great, Andrew. Some really useful information. Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining, and again giving us your evening on tonight. And it's been wonderful having you all here for the 4 weeks. And we've got our final week next. Well, not next week, but our final week is with MAID training. We'll be looking at exam techniques and revision as well. So another really useful video. And if anybody that was unable to attend, then they're very welcome to have a look at the audio that we've recorded as well. And really thank you very much for coming. And as always, there's a bit of a question and answer on when you close down Zoom to have any feedback, so that'd be wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. And Jay, thank you so much for also giving us your evening tonight.
No worries. Someone's just put their hand up. Let's see.
I can't see.
Oh, I think it's one of the questions there. Have the students received that? This, I think that was the person. I think that was who put their hand up. And it's not there now. Oh, sorry, I put my hand up by accident. Okay. No worries.
Well, brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening that you have. And thanks again, Jay.
No problem. Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.